and maybe I could be happy. And of course, that couldn't happen in the end. To explain for myself, who am I? Because a lot of the things that I am and things that I do, and they come from this time period where I've been, in some ways, so many different persons.
Hey, Kajsa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. You're the first interview, as you know, for video feed. We have been an audio only podcast so far, but we got the big honor of being the first person being on camera. How does that feel?
Amazing. Well, someone has to
Couldn't
be
have picked a
first.
better person. Yeah.
No, you couldn't. That's some main character energy right there.
Yeah, that's what we want. Yeah. Perfect. I wanted to ask first and foremost, why did you accept this interview? What is it that you're hoping to get out of it? And then I'll give you my angle back. But yeah, I wanted to hear why you didn't know too much about the podcast, I think, and
No.
then you learned a little bit.
Yes.
Why did you accept it? What are you hoping to get out of this?
Um, I think it's actually kind of sad because of the how the world is right now. And as you offered me to be on your podcast, I thought that it's a little bit of what I can do to hopefully make people more aware of how this to be someone like me, and because there is so much ignorance all around the world right now, and I hope someone can hear this and realize that it's a lot more complex and people are different. So that's I think that's a big part of it. Um, but also like I mean, it's always fun to just casually speak.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's what this will be. As you know, from now, from our podcast, it is just we talk about whatever, we say all what's on our
yeah.
mind. And I wanted this podcast to exist for two reasons. One, exactly what you're saying there, which is I wanted it to be truthful and honest. And then me and my co-host, we joke that we have trash memory. So we started this podcast because we had such good conversations, and then 5 minutes later we'd be like, "What were you just talking about?" I'm like, "I don't know," and I don't know. And we said we really should have this recorded so that we can go back and then listen to them so that we would know what the hell we're talking about, because we enjoyed the conversation. So we figured they should be recorded. And if they benefit us and we thought they were interesting conversations, then maybe there's some other people who'd benefit. So along the lines of what you're saying there.
Or you just find them when you're gray and old, and you just sit for yourself and listen to your old voice having a deep thought.
Exactly, yeah. I think I look old and not so good right now, but you're right. When I have old and gray hair or white hair, my dad has white hair, then I know that I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I was so young compared to,
I was so young.
Yeah, young and dumb. Exactly. And my second reason for is we like to say that this podcast is for taking what in United States we call a 4,000 level university degree. That is the final year of a bachelor's degree, and we take about that level of complexity of topics, and then we bring them down to the world. So I think a lot of information out in the world are kind of gate kept. If you don't go to university, or if you go to a university maybe in a different country, the information that you receive or don't receive are going to be different. And so I learned that I have a lot of gaps in knowledge, and as a authentic, truthful person, I am always trying to fill those gaps. I'm always trying to learn what is it that I don't know, and what are my biases, and what am I scared of usually. And this interview falls under that scared category a little bit, actually. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And we take these 4,000 level complexity courses and we make them more engaging, more fun, so they don't sound like a lecture, but rather a conversation. We interact, you and me, and you give me your opinion, I'll give you my opinion. We see usually the
Oh, you
truth.
want my opinions?
I do, yeah. I have written 4 pages for you, honey. It's going to be lots of stuff of your opinions, okay? And if you have facts, even better. Even better. If you come prepared with facts, great. I'm all about it, because then we can delve into the nitty gritty. But Yeah, taking these using case examples is really the key to make them so that
Yeah.
they're not boring, they're engaging, and people can then learn about it. So, for example, one of my favorite episodes on this podcast so far was episode number 2 on logical fallacies. Have you heard? Do you know about logical fallacies?
No, I don't actually. Mm.
You should listen to my second episode.
Okay.
Everybody who's
Okay.
listening to
Yeah.
this or watching, you should listen to the second episode
Yeah.
because this is exactly why. This is exactly. It's made for people like you who have not heard about it. I had not heard about it. My background in university was political science, so I am a trained speaker, and this is what I do. And one of the things I learned in university is what a logical fallacy is, and just make again listen to the podcast episode because it's 2 hours on this whole thing and you can learn a lot more about it. But the short of it is that logical fallacies is basically an argument or a rhetoric that are used against you or to manipulate you. If you don't know what they are, you are then susceptible to it. And I can tell you, everybody, not everybody else, but the marketers and professionals and politicians and TV commercials and medicals, they all use this against us. And
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah, and it is to manipulate you to do what you want, what they want you to do. So, for example, you've heard of this, you just don't know, maybe don't know that it's called this. But
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah,
yeah,
I've heard of the
right.
system and also how stores organized and yeah. So
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
I've touched the subject, but I didn't know it was called that.
Yeah, of course, absolutely,
Yeah.
and everyone's heard this before. Like, for example, the strawman fallacy is like maybe your mom has used this if you're watching this and laughing. That if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? That's called a strawman fallacy. It basically means logical fallacies means that when you hear these things, they are not true on the face of its value. It would have to be determined through facts or something else that backs up this statement. Before that exists, it is anecdotal or it is simply just not true. So when you hear these things, you can just know it's great to identify them. There's over 50 of them. There's like 80 of them now. So you can use them. Know that when you hear them, you go, okay, I heard that. I know that's not true. Kim told me so, and he told me to Google all the logical fallacies. And a common one, for example, and I don't want to go into a side topic here, but a common one is you see all these horrible commercials, and us being from Scandinavia, we know this very well because we've seen this since we were children. These TV commercials where you see starving people, children in Africa, and they have a really heartfelt message of like, you should send an SMS or you should send a text message or you should donate and send this amount of money monthly to these starving children. You don't need the money, but guess what they do? And they're always like crying and starving, and they have that engorged belly from eating and drinking poor and unclean water, right? Infection. And what happens is you, as a viewer, are supposed to feel really strongly to these children. Like, look, you can see the suffering on their faces. And they do that purposely. That is called false appeal to emotion. What it means is just because you feel really strongly to those children and you should donate, and you should. I do donate every year to various causes that I care about. And I encourage everybody who has a little bit extra to donate, if you can. For you, not necessarily for the causes you're donating, because it'll make you feel much better. That's a promise. But that on the side, a false appeal to emotion means you then want to donate to them because you saw the children that were suffering. But what if I tell you that particular one spent hundreds of millions of dollars spent making those commercials and sending those commercials every so often? Is it the best? Yeah, see, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it the best use of your money if their overhead is 90% and only 10% make it to that child, and 90% is to pay salaries and commercials and marketing and all these things? The false appeal to emotion is do your own research, find out which ones have a low overhead, and those are the ones you should donate to, not the ones on the commercial, probably. It's costly to get their word out. So the ones that don't have that high of overhead, you have never heard of because they don't spend it on commercials.
They do the right thing instead.
Yeah. So these things are really important to know. So anyway, logical fallacies. Go and listen to episode 2. I hope I've sold you on it. It's important for you so that you can hear it when people, teachers, parents, everybody uses them against you. You can go, well, that's not true. I know that to be a true. It's not that I decided so, but it's literally a thing that we get taught. But if you don't go to political science, you're not taught this, and so you're subject to manipulation. And that's not great. Learn this as a form of defense. Don't use it to manipulate people, but use it as a form of defense. Make sure you identify it. And when you hear it, call it out. Hey, did you know what you just used is a logical fallacy? And then they can realize also that their arguments are faulty. And if you're like me, you go, oh, I did not know that. That is great to know. Let me then find out what the facts are and change my argument or my standing on it. And then you will be a better person and you have a better argument and a better rhetoric for it. Okay. That's a long story short. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go into why I'm a little bit scared about this interview right now and why I wanted to interview you so bad? Yeah? Why do you think I wanted to interview you so bad?
I don't know. I think a lot of people haven't really spoken to trans people, and that alienates us in a way. And you draw assumption if you don't know. So maybe that.
Yeah, well, you're a people knower. You're an empath, I can tell. That's exactly right. That is what makes me nervous. I'm so scared of offending, and I might. And I am, hopefully, because you're an empath, you will see through it and realize that it is not intentional. It's going to be a transgression that is going to be accidental. And if I do, it is just from a point of curiosity. That being said, of course, I'm not going to go out of my way to like get click views or anything like that. That's not what the point of this is. It's not to offend either. But I don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So that's exactly right. You and we had a great conversation. We met on a Discord server. We can remain unnamed. We were playing a game.
Yeah.
And you and I started talking to the point where I felt really comfortable with you very quickly. I pride myself on being a people knower. And I felt that you would be the person that I can actually reach out, and if you were interested, and you were, thank God, would be a person I could learn a lot from. And that being said, as a trans person, I don't think, and I don't want anyone who listens to this, that of course you're not going to represent the whole community. That's not how this world works. You are your own individual. We will take you at your word and at what your opinions are, and it doesn't represent everybody. But I am going to ask a lot of questions about things I don't know, and it's going to be about your community in part. So, okay.
Hopefully I can answer as much as possible.
Listen, if you cannot, you just say that, and then that's it. I will have to get more interviews on, and I'm happy. Open interview. So let's get right into it. Who are you as a person? What is the narrative you tell yourself about yourself? Who are you?
It's actually a kind of a tough question because at some point I define myself by my memories of what I've done. One of the problems with that is that I spent a lot of years trying to live what I call a normative life. Because you were supposed to get a wife and a car, as they say in Sweden, Volvo, Villa och Bove.
Yeah, a white picket fence for which he essentially said in Swedish. Yeah.
So that means that a lot of the things that I did was in pursuit of that, not in pursuit of what I wanted, not in pursuit of happiness, not in pursuit of just being me. And some days were really, really easy because I met so many wonderful people, and I thought that maybe I can just put my discomfort aside and just try to live out this normative life, and maybe I could be happy. And of course that couldn't happen in the end. But that makes it really hard to explain for myself who am I, because a lot of the things that I am and things that I do, and they come from this time period where I've been in some ways so many different persons because I've tried and I've tried and I've tried again, doing different career paths, doing a lot of studies at the university. I think all in all, 8 years maybe. And not finishing anything. I mean, I finished a lot of courses, but I
Right.
didn't finish a full-blown university. So I'm
A bachelor's
almost,
degree.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
you're not a
I'm almost
doctorate or anything. Okay.
nah,
Yeah.
I'm almost everything, but
Yeah.
all at the same time nothing. Mm,
I got it. Yeah, a jack of
yeah,
all trades of sorts.
yeah, kind of,
Yeah,
kind of. And that's because I the
a
this
polymath.
that yeah the pursuit, because I wanted it so badly to be reality, to just stay, but it would be so comfortable. There's a lot of things that have happened that made me wonder if I could pull it off to be myself. External factors, horrible people, but at the same time, I had so many wonderful people around me that since I changed my name legally, I haven't backed down once, and it was so comfortable just
Was that
getting my new
empowering
name.
for you
Yeah,
to get your name?
enormously.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Um,
imagine.
but at the same time, it happened a little too quickly because I sent in my application, and normally it takes a month or two for you to switch names in Sweden. Uh, but at the same time, they have some parts, uh, yeah, what they do different. And if your names are very, very common Swedish names, they don't have so much to argue about, and they could almost just click it. They did that with my name because all of my new names are really common Swedish names. Uh, so instead of waiting a month, I waited 2 minutes.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is
uh, uh,
bananas.
yeah, and that's one of the main perks of living in Sweden as a trans person, that you can actually get your new legal name pretty easily.
Yeah.
Uh, if you could, I've talked to a lot of people in different countries, they cannot do that, and it's horrible.
And
Then
last
there's,
names.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the last names is a bit different,
Yeah.
uh, but just your first and your given name.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that because I think, and I should have done the research on this, but I believe that our last names are protected by law, meaning that if you don't belong to that family, correct, you cannot just register as whatever you feel like. My last name, for example, is one of the. I won't give it out. People can probably
Mm,
find it online easily, but but it's one of the really rare ones in Sweden, to the point where we have a registered crest for our last name because it's me and my brother and a few other people who have that last name, and that's just because of because of the heritage. But that's not the
yeah,
case in many countries. Many countries you can just take whatever last name you want. So that's fascinating. That's our first names are so quick. If it's like just like it's not an offensive name, it's not like super rare or anything that needs research, in whatever language, whatever. Then just go, okay, this is Swedish. We have a million people named this. Send it through. Click a button. Done.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
But your last name is
The last
problematic.
name is
Yeah.
the problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Fortunately, you don't need to change that.
No.
Unless you want to, I suppose. But last name is different. um, your childhood. When did you notice that you were not like other children?
From the start.
Right from the
I've
start.
always been, yeah, I've always been the weird one, in some way. Not weird as in bad weird, but as in I've been different, and I felt that from the start. Uh, a part of it has been that I've always felt that none of the other guys in my class thought as I did. I had a different thinking pattern. I wanted different things, and uh, one of the things that I acquired, a skill that I acquired pretty young, was uh, what you might call street smart. Uh, because I figured out pretty early when I spoke up about things that I wanted, uh, in what way I wanted them, people tended to react weird. Uh, so what I basically did was that I learned what I thought people would like, and almost every time I gave that answer to specific questions.
Mm. And
Uh, and
did you
that's
feel not
yeah.
true to yourself, or was it just to watch other people's reaction and you're learning the social like fabric of
I
how
think
to? Yeah.
I think it's a mix. Because I mean I love music. I and early high school I picked up yeah, some of my friends were playing music, and I like, oh yeah, that would be awesome to actually play music, not just listen. And I picked up the guitar, not because that was the most the instrument that I wanted. It was the one that would be able to be brought easily. It was the most social acceptable. But I mean, at the same time, I love music, so why why don't choose the convenient one? I mean, I could learn to play the harp or cello or anything else. That would be awesome, but that wouldn't be convenient, and I might get bullied instead of appreciated. So I kind of twisted what I wanted, and I think I have stayed true to myself, but I've always played more safe than I wanted to.
And are you like that today?
Nah,
I,
I
I had
just
a
do
feeling.
stuff. um, yeah, when we spoke on the Discord server earlier, I yeah I presented for you that yeah, I'm designing a board game, and I've always wanted to do that, but that wasn't convenient, so I didn't do it. Uh, but now I am doing it. Uh, so I'm I'm just doing what I want instead, and it's so liberating. And at the same time, it feels like I I don't have to twist the things that I like into something very similar. Instead, I just can do what I want to like.
And you should never ask a woman her age, but how long did that take until you figured out that your path is going to have to be your path?
Ah, that is a long time. um, to make a short story long,
Good.
my
We have
yeah,
time.
my first yeah, when I was in a musical when I was 20, and at that time my makeup for the scene was made by a trans woman, and that was my first time knowingly meeting someone that was trans. And because before that, I lived a lot in a small bubble, you could say, just meeting, uh, yeah, meeting other normative people that lived in the societal way. Um, yeah. So uh, at that time, my only experience with the queer community was with drag queens, and even how amazing I think they are, that was not my identity.
Hmm.
Uh, so I thought for a long time that there was no other way, no other branch. So meeting someone that is trans as well for the first time really put me on edge at the, because I became scared and joyful at the same time,
Right.
because it was emotion overload. Because you don't normally. I mean, nowadays when I'm out at the club, people don't hear my voice. I mean, I have feminized it by training some, but I still have a quite kind of a masculine voice, and some people their head goes like "Ugh," when they hear me talk. Not to be disrespectful, but they do not expect that voice from how I look. Uh, some days are better, some days are worse, but some days I do blend in and no one and unknowingly just walk around town. Especially if I if I wear some clothes like this, where I could put I hide my mouth or
Sure.
that that way that opened up what became um, 9 long years. Because what happened after, when I was doing this musical, I also entered the university for civil engineering, and I couldn't do it, not because I didn't get it, not because I wasn't able to learn. I did get great test scores, but I drained myself of energy, and I was feeling as if I was walking around with a book in my hand, never reading it. So I didn't study. I didn't live almost. But so then I started to try and switch, and I switched and I switched, and then pedagogics, linguistics, doctor. Uh, I I tried all of these high end university courses, and I thought that might be my way of finding a way to live a normative life, but I couldn't. I found a wonderful person that I lived with for a short while, but since I wasn't true to myself, I thought at that time that I was. Uh, I ended up destroying that because I couldn't be truthful to myself, uh, and so. Uh, and when that ended, and I had to move, I moved out. It was the most logical thing to do. I experienced some great and some really, really awful times.
Depression.
Depression,
Yeah.
and then I like fuck it and ordered some fake boobs, ordered a wig, and putting them on. I realized how much I hated having a beard, and I had a big one. It's so weird today. I didn't actually not recognize myself from that time when I look at pictures.
I can
Um,
imagine. That must be
it's
jarring to you. And
yeah, it's like that was a person who lived before me, or so I get it. That I mean, I met people that they do not recognize me at all.
Mm.
I one of the first time that I met with some friends, and I had another friend who set up for me to meet them just because I didn't know how to do it. So he invited me out, to a bar, and the first thing that happened was that one of the friends, she actually tried to move her chair because she wanted me to let me pass because she didn't think I was supposed to talk to them. And then she saw that I spoke to another friend behind her, and like, oh, and she put out this hand and like, hi, this is me. And I replied, yeah, I'm Kajsa, but you also know me as my old name. And she
Wow.
like, holy shit.
Ah,
uh, and that was an amazing experience. Because yeah, she only knew me with beard, obviously no makeup, and short hair, and I had a wig that was destroyed that night, but it was a good one. And she didn't recognize me at all. And I imagine that people would even less now that I have changed more.
right. And might continue doing that path as well as you find yourself or as you iterate yourself. I mean, we all iterate ourselves. I'm not nowhere near. I always say I'm the 100% opposite of what I was when I was in my teenage year. In my early like preteens, I was an aggressive kid, angry, depressed. Still depressed, still have major depressive disorder, still
Oh.
take medication for it, but you will never not catch me smiling. And I'm happy to be alive, happy to be in this planet. And but I had to change everything that I was, because it was not who I was, and I too am a bit of a people pleaser. So I gave what I thought people wanted so that I would be liked. Just kind of how we are naturally as people, right? We're social people. That's why putting people in isolation is the worst thing you can do, even if your people are other, terrible people. I won't say
Yeah.
the word for YouTube. I don't want to get this interview canceled immediately. But even
Like that.
then, yeah, you can imagine. Anyway, all the terrible things you can imagine. Yeah. And how did she take it after that? You lost your wig, so it must have been a great rest of the evening or something.
Yeah. Nah, I didn't lost it, but it became unwearable again because of yeah. Um, yeah, it was a weird night, but it was fun.
Can imagine.
Yeah, I think she's actually we haven't spoken on almost since, but we met like twice since, and this is 3-4 years ago. So and just because we did hang out when we were studying, we were studying architecture together. Uh, but I mean, even though she's someone I like to hang out with, we didn't really hang out much without our connecting people.
Sure.
And although, I mean, since I stopped studying, and some people have gotten different jobs because the market for architects are shitty, and some people don't even live in the city anymore. So yeah, so it's. But at the same time, I mean, even though I enjoyed her company a lot, we didn't hang out as much. And I think part of it was that at the time when we started to get to know each other, I was a different person. I was
Yeah.
presenting so differently, even though I have the same personality traits and act a lot in similar ways. I also had some acquired personality traits just to be able to be street smart, to be able to blend in and not out myself, uh, which I did unconsciously. And they disappeared the day when I just started being me.
Yeah, that's the heavy price to pay. And particularly when you are not feeling like you really have a choice. You have a choice in how you present yourself, how you make up, do your hair, whatever else, clothes, how you present yourself and how you converse. But it, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you feel like you have a choice in the sense that you could continue living your lie, or you could be your authentic self?
Not really.
Right.
I mean, I probably wouldn't be sitting here if, and did not just this chair. I probably wouldn't be here.
On this planet.
No, because every year became heavier and heavier, and I got to a point where I started to have anger issues because I couldn't cope. I was so easily both distracted, irritated, and for a lot of people that became a shock because they had said to me like a month before that I started to act out that they had never seen me do anything but smile.
Right. Happy-go-lucky
Uh,
kid.
yeah. So a lot of people didn't see it coming because I was always smiling on the outside.
You masked it. Because you
Yeah.
learned. You learned how to mask
Yeah.
for many years,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate. That's my depression for you. That's exactly it. Like I said, you'll never see me not smiling because um I've been a team leader in over
Mm.
teams of 11 people. This is what I do, right? And that's what I learned very quickly is that one, I'm great at masking because I've been doing it since I was like 13 years old. But two, I realized also that it's psychology is more infectious than any disease. Meaning,
Yeah.
right? If I show
Yeah.
up to work and I'm pissy, right? What's
Yeah.
gonna happen to the team underneath me, right? They're gonna feed off of that energy, and then everybody's gonna have. I can affect 10x, right? I can. It's not just me, but if I have 10 people underneath me,
Mm.
it's that's 10x. That
Yeah.
so, but the reverse is true as well, right? If I smile, it's hard for you not to smile right back at me, right? It's just how it goes, and that's much nicer. So
Yeah.
it's not about faking it, right?
Mm.
And that's something that I'm still struggling. That's my with is how do you find that truthfulness that always trying to. I want people to read me like an open book, because it's my defense of how I'm perceived, because I am so good at masking. So it's my way of trying to remove some of that a little bit. But at the same time, the balance to that also is, don't maybe show up if you're having not the greatest day at work or whatever. Don't show up with that bad mood to work, because you will infect other people. So then, be careful
Or
with
you
that a
could,
little bit.
or you could tell them. You could just
Even better.
plain up tell them that I'm sorry, I'm not angry with you. I had something personal.
Yeah,
Um, I will seem a bit less happy today, and it has nothing to do with you guys,
yeah,
because
exactly.
then they
And
know, and they won't get infected by
yeah,
by
and
by your friend.
and that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because if I am transparent, truthful, if you read that into me, then I will tell you exactly that, and then you will know. Okay, well, I feel good now. But if I do that mask, people are very good. This is what I'm struggling with on this podcast a little bit, or why I want this podcast to is. People are extremely good at reading the conspicuous and the inconspicuous. What you say and matching it with how your body language is, or how you come across, and your microfacial expressions and things like that. We've become really, really good at it, particularly now in modern days, because we are lied to by politicians. We're lied to on media and all these things. So the reason why podcasts are so popular is because you come across as very truthful, and you just hanging out with friends, or and there's no kind of ulterior motive, right? And so that just worked perfectly for me, and that's why I wanted to do this. So yeah, very interesting. I want to go back to when you met her. Was it a her or a he, for when you had your makeup done first in your childhood? Was it her? You said
That I met at the bar, or
no.
wait.
The sorry, the trans person that
Oh, she
it was a
was
she. Yeah,
yeah, she
yeah.
was already she.
And
She yeah.
and tell me more about that. You had all these feelings, and you were realizing, oh crap, this person is a
Um
lot more free than me, maybe? Or what was the thing that made you both nervous and excited?
um I mean, uh, well, as she did my makeup, a lot of the other girls thought that she was doing my makeup too feminine. Um, and they said, you, you're doing it too. It looks too metrosexual. Like it was such a, and for me that was kind of a relief, because it wasn't my fault that I
Uh-huh.
didn't. Uh, that wasn't the appropriate way.
Right.
um, so yeah, all emotions at once, all of them.
And what did you
Uh,
feel?
um, I felt both relieved, and I felt more like myself, because a lot of times people ask me sometimes, when did you know, and not like, yeah, you had a hunch from you were a kid, you were different, but when did you really know?
Right.
For me, that was when I asked one of my friends to do my makeup feminine, and I asked in a way as if it were supposed to be in for Halloween, or for something else. And then the day we set up a date, and I was supposed to meet up at her, and she was they were living. Their pronouns are she they, so I will switch probably. uh, and they lived with another friend of mine, and at that time, and when the date got closer and closer, I called them, and guys, there's another reason behind this. And I got there and I made my makeup. And for the first time in my life, I looked in the mirror and felt that I was seeing me. I did not see a reflection of my body because that was the feeling before. Whenever I saw a mirror, yeah, I knew logically that it was me in the mirror, but it never felt like me. But having makeup, uh, of course, it wasn't my authentic me. As I today can see myself, even without makeup, uh, I do see myself in the mirror, and that is a lot of change, and such an enormous relief. And I I don't know if I cried because I was overwhelmed with emotions that day as well, because that was something that I had tried to just put aside and not bring up, and then I finally took the step and let someone else help me. And since that day, I started to work on how can I be that person that I saw in the mirror every day, the one that actually makes me happy. I mean, sometimes we were talking about how going to work with a frown or a smile makes a difference. And sometimes I think that I have a resting smile face.
Nice.
Which because sometimes people just why are you so happy? And I'm like, I'm depressed.
And then you think, that's true. Why am I?
So why am I smiling?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah. But that's a
Yeah.
different question.
Yeah. Well, it's the masking, right? We do
uh,
that to protect ourselves. And then
yes.
eventually you get to the point where you don't even realize that we do have that like default trained, I think, originally. Or at least I
Yeah.
think so. What do you think? Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And it's so liberating that that picture that I got in my head that day is the one that I'm living every day now. Uh, I mean, uh, I have a lot of pressure that I put on myself to look as feminine as I possibly can every day. Uh, and I know that I'm overcompensating uh, because I see what I see as flaws. I sometimes get compliments for, but I see it as something masculine, and my head brings it up way, way big.
Right.
Uh, and s- and a bad day that is probably 70 times bigger in my head than the truth. And like my nose, for example, I have days where I can't stand it. I almost just want to rip it off. Going a Voldemort.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but because for uh, during our childhood, uh, we we saw a lot of Disney movies, and the villain always had a big nose.
Oh, interesting.
Uh,
That's
and
true
of
now that I think about
Yeah,
it.
and the ugly girls in the movies had
Right. They had
big
a little
noses.
tiny one.
Uh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they were. I mean, so from a young age, I associated a big nose with either masculine or evil. Uh, so I've come to terms for most of it now, and I have different parts of my face and my body that I dislike. I won't talk about them because then they will blow up. Um, but they're at the same time, as I've started my transition, I also realized that some of the parts of myself that I hated is not something that I hate. It's something that I think that I can't live up to the societal norm. That that it doesn't make me feminine enough. But I mean, a nose is a nose, and you could find every kind of different nose on different people. Doesn't matter gender nor sex nor anything. We have different noses, but I was obsessed with it because of that upbringing, and that took a lot of energy to first realize and accept, and oh yeah, all the stages, denial.
Yeah, all stages of
Yeah,
death,
yeah.
all
Uh,
stages of grief.
uh, and it kind of is a lot similar to grief to have uh, my sometimes people also ask me how 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 do you know, how do you feel, what is it that you know, what is dysmorphia?
Mhm.
And dysmorphia is this hateful I mean yeah, personally
Yeah,
is this hateful emotion that I'm not me, that
yeah,
I don't look like me,
right.
and
Not authentic.
no no yeah exactly, and I want to so badly to be myself. And when I try to explain it, I try to um, be a little bit horrible to people and say, okay, what part of your body does you hate? Which part? Tell me now. Like, because they
So
could
they can
always,
feel what it feels
yeah,
like.
so they can
Yeah.
feel.
Hmm.
But at the same time, instead of being about your body, it's about your identity. uh, I mean, the dysmorphia almost for everyone I've talked to. It's not all, but for the most of the people I've talked to, it comes with that we dislike body parts, that we wish we were different, and but even if you're not trans, um, and if you're born with identity that you present with, um, and you like it, you have a part of yourself that you like, oh, my ribs is poking out a little too much to the left if they're, yeah.
Yeah.
and and that feeling, imagine that being all over your face. I mean, sitting on your glasses like it's subtitles, like, oh,
Right.
you hate your calf, you hate your calf, you hate your calf.
My God.
uh, and I mean, your left calf is looking fine, but your right one not so much.
Right.
And
And it's things that most people generally don't notice, right?
yeah,
Or think about.
they don't
Not
know.
when they
I
look at
mean,
you, but in our heads,
yeah.
we
Mm.
can obsess.
Mm. They're watching between your eyes. They're watching between your eyes, like all the
Yeah.
subtitles going through, and it's horrible. I mean, the way it presents as a feeling is obviously different for people, but a lot of us uh, have that kind of feeling. We are supposed to just accept it, and that's horrifying because that means people have left the planet because of that, because they tend to see things like that all the time, every time. Avoiding mirrors, avoiding blank water. Don't go near it because they might see their reflection.
That's
And
awful. And when
yeah,
it is your face, it's so much like when you look at movies, so much is constructed in your face, right? We have micro expressions. It's how we read people. So it's like, yeah, out of all the things, it's unfortunately really a really important one. It's more, no one stares at, like, if I were to show you this for X amount of hours, no one stares at this part, right? It doesn't matter. But your facial expressions, your teeth, your smile, everything that goes around it with your eyes, eyebrows are very expressive. It's how we read people, right? It's how we. So that makes sense. That has got to be horrible. I
yeah,
could not imagine.
and that's why I have such a love-hate for tattoos.
Tell me more.
Because yeah, because a lot of us, I mean, I think tattoos can look amazing. They could look yeah, and especially if I love stories. So sometimes when if I ask someone in the right way about their tattoo, you can get a story. You can get almost like a book. Uh, and but at the same time, a lot of people I've met have made their tattoos because they're covering a scar, covering that part that they don't like. All this covering up. It's
Right.
not they. But at the same time, I've met people that empathize and enlarge the part. Like this part is that I like. I want people to look at this. I want people to look at my calves because I find my calves amazing. And that is such an impressive tool that you can do to visualize who you want to be, what your identification is.
Yeah.
Well, identification, but identity.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's why I kind of love hating, because when people do it for the right reason, it's so amazing. But sometimes it do it to hide, and I hate that, because I want them to not have to hide. Just get the tattoo for yourself, not to cover something up. And it's
Yeah.
great visualization of what people actually do with their body to be able to identify. Yeah,
Express your
I mean to
identity.
be. Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Do you have any tattoos?
Not yet.
But you're thinking about it.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird being an artist. As even though I'm doing this as a hobby, I do draw a lot of stuff, and that means that I'm so afraid that I'm giving too much information or too little, or won't be happy with the style. Yeah, it's so much into it,
Right.
but it's also the cost.
Not cheap.
It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
No,
body
I
parts? What kind of? And for me, I love wearing dresses, and I want to. If I have an open back, do I want it to be seen? Do I want it to be covered? If it's um, yeah, I
what would
think.
do you want to share what it would be of if you were to get one?
Um, my nickname on a lot of stuff, Strawbird, is actually what I wanted to do. Because I'm from a city that's directly translated to Straw Town, uh, which means that I think kind of like I am this. Yeah, I am from the Straw Town, and I feel. I mean, it's very cliche, but I feel free as a bird, and I think that symbolises me in so many ways. I mean, I still go a lot to the local football club, their games. Um, it's weird. There is some transphobes there, uh, but I still love the club, so I want to go to the games. Uh, so, and the problem is that I could do something with an unbroken cage. I could do something with a trans flag. That would be awesome. Or the bird could be a phoenix. The bird could, yeah. But I probably want it on my back.
Speaking of expression, do you consider yourself an extrovert or an introvert?
Extrovert,
An extrovert.
most
And do you think this was
mostly.
trained, or you think mostly? It's a spectrum like anything. Do you
Yeah.
think you were trained this way, or you think this is kind of how you were nurture? You know, were you born this way? Was it trained?
I think I'm born this way.
Mhm.
I think I tend to hang out with social introverts.
That's me.
uh, because I mean I get so, and I think the fundamental about it is that whenever there's a story, I'm here for it. I want to hear your story, and I want to ask questions about the story. And I mean, when I was a little kid, my brother, he learned to read so young, and he started to read these books where I was supposed to choose a different option. Like, yeah, this story is about, and he stopped, and I pointed at the skeleton, and he said, a skeleton, and this skeleton was supposed to go to, and I pointed at a house, and a house, and I was so immersed, and that so I get a lot of energy from hearing people talk, and so whenever I'm out, it's so weird because I'm supposed to just crash and go home and not have energy. like normal people. But when I'm out, I have a hard time going home because I get so much energy from everyone I meet, everyone I talk to, that suddenly hours flew by and I'm almost been up for 24 hours, and the sun is up, and I'm like, holy shit, I have so much energy to give and left. And I really think that that's different from a lot of other people that I've met, because I mean I've met so many people that say, and that's why I said social introverts, because they tend to go home and they're like, oh, okay, so you have to go home now, okay. um,
Yeah, it's usually they who end it, right? You're like,
yeah,
no, I don't
I
want to
don't know.
end it. I'm not going to be the one who suggested.
uh,
Yeah.
I actually have friends that says to me that like, it's so weird being with you because it never ends. It's like, um, uh, and that's because I get so much energy that it's almost like I'm charging my battery, hanging out with the people I love. Uh, Meanwhile, I met people that say, "Oh, I'm extrovert," and then we go out and they're like, "Oh, I can't do this." It's so weird for me because I think they're a social introvert
I
because they
think
don't
that's
get.
I think that's great understanding of it, and a lot of people, I think you have the exactly perfect explanation of it as well. That it's a lot of people get they misidentify me as an extrovert because I have a podcast and I always talk to people and I have an easy time talking to everybody. That's just always how it's been. Actually, that's not how it's always been. That was trained, but that doesn't matter. It's so people, a lot of my, even including friends I've had for many years, identify me as an extrovert, and they're like, "But Kim, you're so," that they almost think of charisma, or they think of, but it's all trained. It's all, created that way. But but your explanation of it is perfect because it's exactly it, right? It's about, do your batteries charge or drain when you hang out with people? And if they charge, then most likely you're probably an extrovert. And that's how I know I'm an introvert, because while I like talking to people, I know after this interview I have nothing else scheduled. That's just what's gonna happen. I'm gonna play
Yeah,
some games and and just recharge, because these interviews usually after they just kill my entire battery. I'm engaged. I'm locked in. I'm listening to you. I'm here with you, and but it takes energy from me. I don't. So that's absolutely how I know. So yeah, if you're considering it yourself, that I think is probably the correct way of looking at if you're an introvert or, oh yeah, think about it yourself. I wanted to move to the reason why I asked you a little bit early on in your life is because for people who are listening who might be in your position, because we're gonna have a title that's of course going to be related to the topics that we are talking about. So people who are clicking on it are going to maybe want to know more. And what do you have to say to those people who maybe haven't expressed themselves yet, or are depressed, because they can't express themselves for various reasons? How do you know, and how do you know that they're on the right track? How did you know?
um,
And what are the signs
that's
as well?
um, the signs are different for everyone, and that's the first step. Actually, just realize that whatever you do, in terms of trying stuff or not trying stuff, um, you can look at other people and ask them, oh yeah, what were your signs, how did you feel? But you should always know that your identity is your identity. It's not locked to someone else's story. I mean, for me, my story is easier to tell because I think of myself as very feminine. And if you are a non-binary person or uh, anything else, it might be very, very much harder, because a lot of the things that my stories are, like, I took on the t-shirt on my head and had it as long hair when I was a kid, and yeah, and tried. We had a box of clothes for masquerades and sort of like that. And in secret, I took out a lot of the feminine stuff and put on myself when I was a kid.
And that's a common one I hear,
Yeah.
right? It's quite common to steal mom's like high heels or maybe even lipstick, secretly put it back and hope that
Yeah.
she doesn't notice. That yeah.
Yes.
Tell me more about this. What I as someone who's never had it's never crossed my mind, but I have straight friends who have done the same thing. How do you know? What's the difference there?
The difference is, how did it make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could do it because you're exploring, and you could do it because of that it is actually that is I mean that is how you want to look, and you shouldn't consider yourself stupid or anything just because you don't know. But you should, if you're asking yourself these questions, you should probably try it again and try to think of it as, do I enjoy this as an art style? Do I enjoy it as some drag queens do? That they do it to perfection with big wigs and customize how they look in fabulous ways. Do I feel as if this is how I want it to look? Or do I think as this is something fun we can do at this party? And none of them are wrong to do, but you could end up with so many different answers, and you should always try to feel what is my answer to that question. And for me, it was very easy because it felt liberating. Felt like this is how I'm supposed to dress. This is how I'm supposed to look. That's not that easy for others. And I mean, if you're really critics, like, this outfit is so bad, it doesn't matter how look. So it could be blown away by that as well.
That's next level. That's
Yeah,
advanced.
yeah. I ordered some really cheap dresses when I first started experimenting more at home, but they were the wrong size. So I've never looked that jacked because they were so tight,
no.
and that actually hurt more.
I bet.
Yeah,
Because it was
and
showing the flaws.
yeah,
Yeah, because
uh,
good fitting clothes make you it
mm,
accentuates the things that you want, and in bad fitting clothes, do the converse.
yeah. And instead of knowing that, when I did this so early, I started to question myself. I didn't ask myself, why did it
Oh,
feel bad? I
oh
mean,
no! So it did
yeah,
some damage.
yeah, I did damage and
Ah,
actually put it to rest for some weeks.
oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because suddenly I felt as the joke that I've seen in so many movies,
Right.
a really ripped guy with
Right. I'm thinking Ace
coming
Ventura when
yeah,
he wore a
yeah,
dress. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that. And that was so much further away from where I am today
Hmm.
that that's one of the few times in my life that I actually felt masculine, which was weird, and I hated it, and I interpreted it the wrong way. So, but that's my best tip is try to understand why. Why do I feel this? What question do I ask myself? And how do I feel about it?
And what are some answers that will guide you one way or another that the person will
Do
naturally probably go through?
yeah, do you feel liberated because of what you dress up in? Yeah, you're probably onto something. But I say probably because it could also be that you just want to express yourself however you please. I mean, you have Harry Styles. Have you seen some of
Yes.
his
Yeah.
shows? Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, it could be that.
Right.
But my main takeaway would be that you should if you feel liberated, try to explore more. Do you not like it? Why? Why do you feel so strongly about it? Is it
Question those
because
assumptions.
yeah? Don't assume anything. Don't label yourself. Uh, but read up on. I mean, labeling is so weird because it makes it easier for us to understand something. But at the same time, if you start to label yourself too early, you could do damage to yourself. Uh, and that's not good. just try to be who yourself. Yeah, be yourself, and don't don't trust your first instinct, because sometimes feelings doesn't come with an explanation. You have to find the explanation of your feelings before you can do anything else.
So feel, if I'm understanding this correctly, feel the
Yeah.
emotion first instead of bringing logic first, and then do
Yes.
the reverse. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And you're such a great interview. Thank you, because I realize now that YouTube is probably screaming at me for a little bit earlier because I said straight. That's not the word I think I should have used. What I was supposed to say is heteronormative, I believe. Is that would
Yes.
have been more correct? Okay, well, thank you. You're so nice because I
But
felt it. Not because of you, but I felt like
uh,
YouTube hates me right now. but that's what I was talking about in the beginning. I knew I was gonna slip up. It's just not vocabulary that I know. I've read about it and I'm preparing, for this interview. So, but it's words I've never said before. I've never said that word. So my whole life.
but at the same time, you shouldn't beat yourself up too much because, I mean, saying some that someone is straight, or I mean, it's some parts of the world there is a negative attitude because you're bent the wrong
Right.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so the problem there isn't the word straight; it's the implied of the other. And if at some points some words can't be used in some societies, and it can be in some. Uh, and you're not doing it hatefully, so don't beat yourself up.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you're holding my hand and leading me through these dance, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do this without you. Yeah, and then, yeah, it just proves once time again that I chose the right person to talk about this. You're a great representative both for yourself and for your community.
Thank you. I hope I can be.
You are, yeah. You've come far in your journey. That I can tell, because the answers that you have are very thought through. You've been there. You have experience in these things. You can tell. And going back to what you said as well, I wanted to piggyback a little bit on it. From when you said don't trust your initial instinct, from what I can tell on you, and correct me again if I'm wrong, that it's also an iterative process as well.
Yes.
When you started off this journey is not probably two. Some things I'm sure are similar, or some things you built on. Some things you probably deconstructed and removed and built something new in a different direction, I imagine. So to also think that the first time you're trying these things on, it's going to be a confusing time. It
Yeah.
has to be, right?
One of the yeah, I spoke earlier about my nose, and that was such a big thing. And when I started to transition, I so badly just wanted to save up money and do a nose job. That was the first thing that I wanted to do, and to really, really do, and thought that that would help everything.
Hyper obsessed.
Yeah, um, and that's I won't do it. I mean, I have other things that I might do. I hope, but at the same time, I hope that the dysphoria goes away with the other changes that I get naturally from hormones. Because a part of me want to do nothing surgically, but at the same time, there is some. But that's more because I want to avoid surgery rather than I want the finished product. Nah, I'm not a product, but
like a Barbie doll.
Yeah. No.
But she's gone through iterative changes. Barbie doesn't look
Yeah.
like she used to either. So,
Yeah, her
case
calf
in
is so
point.
stiff.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but you have to be truthful to yourself always, uh, and but don't rush things. I mean, if someone said that to me when I started, I would hate them for it, because especially
Right.
me, I was 28. Yeah, I think I was 28 when I started, um, and it felt like that I've wasted 28 of my years not being me, which is not true because when I was a kid, I hang around with people, girls, boys, as kids did. So that had to reconstruct that in my brain that, yeah, I did not look like I wanted, but I did hang out with kids as a kid. So I did not waste those years.
No, of course not.
Uh, a lot of people that also are very trans fan as me, um, tend to hate that some of teenage years. Yeah, I know a better word for it, but yeah, when you change a lot bodily, when
Yeah, your
as a
puberty.
teenager. Yeah,
Yeah.
puberty. Thank you, and that is horrifying. My voice dropped so low so early. Uh,
Gosh.
yeah, it's dropped so low that when I was calling some friends, they thought I was a grown man calling. So when your sibling answered the phone, they actually thought it was something weird. They didn't thought that I was calling for, let's say, Jacob or anyone. And even though I have feminized it now, the voice box doesn't change because of estrogen. It does with testosterone. Then it grows and you get a deeper, manlier voice. But estrogen you have to train, and it's horrifying and horrible, growing up and suddenly speaking as the manliest in the room, having a deeper voice than the male teacher. It's scary, and you. I started to think that, yeah, this is who I'm supposed to be now. I'm supposed to be the man adult, something, something, and started to live a lot of that. I started to train so much, 12, 13 times a week. So I went from one training to another, often by bike, um, just just trying to find some way to be able to live.
And why were you to get why did you go and train so much?
I think I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think that the main reason is because when I grew up, I didn't look like the girls, and then I didn't feel like the boys. So, but uh, there was this special place that is called a field. Uh, so when you play as a team, I played a lot of football, a lot of handball. So when you play as a team, suddenly I felt that I belonged with the others. We were on the same time, with the same goals. It didn't matter how I didn't have the vocabulary about it then, but I it didn't matter how I identified,
Hmm.
because all that matters was that we were supposed to score more goals than the other
Yep.
team.
Right.
That was the only main thing to do. Um, and you spoke earlier of hyperfixation. I did that with football and handball as well. Um, I because it was my way of coping was to hyperfixate on something, and I've been doing that for the most part of my life, and I got stressed out because of it. Yeah, I got pretty good at it, but I mean, who doesn't if you've spent 10,000 hours on something. Um, it's sometimes it's so weird because if I look at myself in the mirror now and I know how the people I used to play with look now, it's so like we're on the same team, really. It's like,
Talk about a 180 as well for the physicality of you. You train that much, there's only one thing that happens, and that is you're gonna
yes.
get some muscle. And then you said you had a big beard, and you're training us, sports.
Mm,
That's got to be, yeah, yeah. Talk about some change.
yeah.
Life is complicated. Life does not come with a manual. That much is
No.
obvious, and it's fascinating how we both agreed that you are 180 degrees, just like, and I said I'm a 180 degree from what we were before.
Mm,
Isn't that confusing? That like we know so little about ourselves, but because we're children, and because
yeah.
society, and because of a bunch of
Mm,
things that are not
mm,
our fault. Um, like God, it takes so many years. Like if you're 18, listen to this. If you're 24, listen to this. If you're 30, listen to this. Or any age, honestly, it can take so many years until you find yourself like Anthony Bourdain, the famous chef. He suffered from depression a great many years,
mm,
and ended up
yeah.
unaliving himself as a
Mm,
result of it too. Poor guy. And but he from what I think I know is that he picked up jujitsu at the age of 55 and became hyper obsessed to the point where he like slowed down drinking or even maybe stopped drinking and changed his whole life. He's
yeah.
55. So like just imagine, right? That you can find yourself at that age too. So it's insane like how we don't understand anyone around us, and we understand ourselves even less.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important, I think, or that's why I keep trying to hammer home this is that it's an iterative process. If it feels right, go that direction, as what you're saying to me. If it doesn't feel right, hey, find out why. Is it because it's not you? Is it because it needs to be destroyed? Or are you going in the wrong direction? Change the direction altogether. And then just keep iterating. And then the more you do that, you'll be happier and happier and happier. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for you, but I suspect maybe you'll answer similarly, which is I I might not look it, but I am 37 as of a few days ago, and I
Oh, happy birthday,
thank
belated.
you very much. And I have never been happier in my entire life than I am this year. And I would say my 30s, when I was 27, I was going through a midlife crisis. I've already owned like 4 or 5 motorcycles, and I have see on the camera. Is it gonna show? Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
I split myself open, ripped them, the whole shoulder apart and everything. Several surgeries later, titanium plate, the whole thing. And
Uh-huh.
I went through like what I would call like a midlife crisis, or maybe even a quarter life crisis, whatever you want to call it, from 27. I was so nervous that like I knew all the facts, right? That once I turn 30, I'm gonna, I'm on a
Yeah,
downhill to death, right? Like it's just,
yeah.
when you until like
Met
18,
30s.
yeah. And when you're until you're 18, you produce a lot of these things that you need faster than you can kind of lose them, and it's
Mm,
all kinds of different things in bodily functions and systems. And I knew like factually it's gonna slow down, and I know, and then you get all these like little keys, like you have I don't know. My wrinkles doesn't show that much right now, but I have wrinkles, and or my hangover, turns from 3 hours to 3 days. Right, my hangover now is horrible.
no.
Um, and so you have all these things, but I would say, my life has never been better because I keep going in the same process or same direction. Not same direction as you, of course, but we're doing the same thing, which is iterating, questioning, trying to find out who am I, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what are the things I'm doing well, what are the things I'm not doing so well, what do I want to change, so that we think of ourselves as I will find who I am, and then that's who I am, and you have to cling to that. No, no, don't cling to that. Keep growing, right? You should keep growing, keep finding that out. Uh, that's for sure what life is all about, right? The whole idea of like, I just imagine like people who work for 60 years or whatever, retire, and then they're supposed to have their golden years, and then they're uh, they're looking forward to doing nothing or not working. And I can't personally, I could not imagine that. That seems like death to me, because it's the ending of that iterative process. Like, why would I not keep having new experiences and trying out new things and finding out, like, I imagine I'm gonna, as long as I keep working out and do my runs and things, I hope to have a good enough quality to be around and have to be able to do whatever I want to do. Honestly, right? But it's weird. We
Just
think of it like we're stages, and then like now I found myself, or Oh, what were you gonna say?
yeah. Just to iterate back to what I was speaking about earlier, uh, you really should trust your feelings, and do stuff that you want to, and then and if you feel bad about it, just question it in the right way. But as you said, you should really live your life.
And
'Cause-
data supports this, right? Because we know that the prefrontal cortex, which is in the frontal part of our brains, we know that that is the newest part, one of the newest parts of our brain. It's underdeveloped. So imagine it's like an infant in part of as complex to all the other parts in our, like our lizard part of the brain and stuff like that has been done for forever. And knowing that the prefrontal cortex is the part that simulates, for example, taste. It's when we're looking at certain things and we imagine, if I lick that thing, what's it going to taste like? Maybe, I don't know. I've eaten paper, but if I look at this piece of paper like right here, and I imagine like what's it going to be like to lick it, I can simulate that taste. What and
you
I'll
did it for
probably
me as well.
yeah, see, yeah, exactly, yeah. And we can get pretty close to it, particularly if you have had that experience. Then it'll be more close to it. Where we fail to realize is when we have not had the experience. Like, for example, if I say, imagine licking poop, for example. Sorry for the gross. Then if you have never eaten poop or licked poop before, then you can imagine it's not going to be probably your favorite. And you can imagine it's probably going to be pretty horrible. But it is not going to be correct. That's what I want to get through. Is we can imagine what it's going to, because we know what it smells like. But olfactory and taste are not the same thing. You ever have, like, for example, coffee is a perfect example. Coffee smells great. To me, tastes horrible. Sorry for all the coffee lovers out there. But we can agree that coffee has a very aromatic... There you go. Perfect. Typical Scandinavian. Is it black?
Yeah.
Oh, of course it is.
No, it is not.
Oh, it's not? Oh.
Nah.
Fake Scandinavian. Kick her out. Kick her out. Anyway. Nah, I'm joking. But... it smells very aromatic. Smells great, right? Going into a coffee house smells great. And then when you taste coffee, even if you think it tastes good, it doesn't taste exactly like it smells. And so that's the same thing with this. Simulating your experiences in your brain, you can imagine, and your brain will imagine it. Prefrontal cortex will, but it's not going to be true. So, for example, you can imagine what it's like jumping out of an airplane for skydiving, for example. You can imagine what it's like, but until you do it and you feel the emotions and everything, one of the first things people say is you realize, okay, it's adrenaline in the beginning, but people who have not jumped out of an airplane yet, skydiving or parachuting, they think it's going to be adrenaline the whole way. But in some portion of that fall, it turns out to be really serene, really, really relaxing. And that's something that you don't imagine. You cannot imagine if you don't. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of reasons for that, but that's exactly it. Is we are not good at simulating things, and we should think about it and treat it accordingly, because our prefrontal cortex is pretty relatively new to our brains, so it's just underdeveloped. That's all. It'll get better in the future, just like evolution does with everything. Yeah. So get experiences. That's our prescription.
Brought to
leading
you
on
by
to,
nice.
Say again.
Brought to you by today's
yeah. Brought to you. Yeah. Insert sponsorship here. Somebody sponsor us.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now I want some parachuters companies to sponsor. That would be great. So going along with some signs and things that you learned, what are some good resources that helped you? Are there any resources that people could do? You have the internet, so anyone can Google. So are there some things that people could do across the world that would be available?
It's so much harder now since this week, because a lot of the things that I did early is kind of blocked now,
What
because
does that mean? What are
if you
blocked?
if you go on Instagram
Hmm.
and put up a story, and you do some hashtags. I won't say which, because yeah, you might actually get blocked.
Oh,
Uh, and if you use them, you you can't click those hashtags anymore,
they
because
don't work.
they don't work.
Wow.
Uh, so that also means that some of my pictures doesn't get spread at all. And the main problem is that when I started this, I did a page. I wrote that I actually removed my earliest pictures because they were so much filters to make me look more feminine. And I hadn't got the hang of makeup. I hadn't got the hang of a lot of stuff. And I'm still learning a lot, but at that point I was so scared. But I wanted to have some way of me to realize that I'm actually taking steps. So my Instagram is my way of seeing my different steps through, like, kind of my evolution as of my transition.
Like a
Uh,
journal.
yeah, it is. And at the same time, I found other people doing the same thing. So I started to write to them messages. Some didn't reply. I got some of them those messages as well. Uh, Replied sometimes, didn't reply sometimes, because I was scared. I didn't want to not reply, but I was scared because I also got pictures of things you shouldn't see, randomly from older white men. Um,
Sorry to hear.
uh, yeah, and that was really, really scary. But at the same time, I didn't want that to dishearten me, so I continued. But as I started to speak with the others, I think we gave each other a lot, and that gave me courage to continue to explore. And that's why I think it's so horrible that today you are not allowed to use some hashtags because of how it looks in the US right now. And I really don't know, because that was my main thing. I could talk to strangers who didn't know me before, and who I could try some words. I could try and ask for help and give help and enjoy the ride together. But it doesn't work anymore. Not
That's
right now.
horrible.
Yeah.
And I don't imagine that you did it out of malicious ill will or anything like that. These hashtags must have been for legitimate use for you. Just I'm assuming. So that means that the authoritative body of the moderation team at Instagram messed up, right? The so are the hashtags like what's it called? Oh, I'm forgetting my words, but
It's like you can almost describe it as some people describe being shadow banned.
yeah.
Like if you use those hashtags, and they're LGBT friendly hashtags.
And
Uh,
because they're seen as inflammatory, or what do you think is the reasoning for this?
oh,
Or were they
honest truth,
co-opted by Matt? But like were the terms co-opted by other people who meant ill will? You think?
I don't think I should say it.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay. Well, then
mm,
we won't say it. Yeah, then we
yeah,
won't say it. Then we will move on. Yeah, but that's a shame, right? That is a shame that you cannot express those things because there was some benefit. So that means there could have been some benefit for other people as well.
yeah. I mean, I miss that because I've been quite offline from Instagram, and I've recently started up it again, thinking that now I am in a position in my transition where people might write to me asking for guidance in their early transition. And I want to be able and give, when I have extra time, I want to give that to those people. Uh, but I can't, and it sucks.
Yeah, you can't like add everybody on WhatsApp and tell them there either. It's not feasible. So yeah,
I want them to find me because I
yeah,
don't know who they are.
sure.
And the best way of letting people find me is hashtags.
Okay, and
Because
some of them
then
can.
yeah, they search for hashtags that might help them find a person that they can ask questions.
All right. Should we drop your social media down below? Should
Yeah.
we put it down there so that people can reach out to you? Yeah, because that's what I
Yeah.
feel like would be really helpful. A lot of people, they're probably screaming at like, I want to talk to Kajsa. I want to know more. What are these hashtags? And you can maybe tell them and enlighten.
Yeah.
I definitely want to know this after our interview. I want to hear what this
Yeah.
is, and so that would be great, just for my own personal knowledge. I'm curious.
My Instagram is made by Kajsa. That's one word.
Spell Kajsa for English for non.
Kajsa is spelled Kajsa.
Made by Kajsa. Kajsa. Got it. On Instagram.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Well, and I'll put a link down in the show notes as well, so they can find you easily. Yeah. So you have not had surgery then, based on what
No.
you said. And would you now? How do you feel about it now, as you're changing your mind, going from hyperfixation to, let me pump the brakes a little bit, find out is this necessary to go under the knife?
Yeah, but before I answer, to anyone listening, just know you can't go up to a trans randomly and just ask. This is something that we have actually talked, written about before I before we started this today.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I got some information from you, and I read through. So I knew that it was being brought up, but imagine going to someone like, "Oh, have you had the surgery yet?"
It's offensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't go around asking people like, "Oh, did you do a nose job? Are you happy about that teeth?"
Yeah. Are you going to consider changing that nose? Yeah, it implies something. Okay. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Interesting. And is that because not everybody wants to do this? Or
No,
explain this.
Some do not want it. I mean, especially like for me, that I'm on the spectrum. I'm far to the trans femme. Some people are not,
right.
And some of the things that I will change doesn't affect some people. So, for instance, the Adam's apple, which everyone has, but it's a lot bigger if you have testosterone. And I will probably shave off a bit of it to make it look smaller. It's just a tip. So you can't do a lot, and it doesn't affect how you speak.
The voice box is further in.
Yeah. It's behind the thing that you can shave off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, such a little procedure that some people they don't give up. They don't care. I was about to say something else. They don't care because they don't think that will affect their lives. And some people look. I was talking to you about the subtitles that I kind of see sometimes. Like, some people in my situation, all they see is like, oh, they're seeing my Adam's apple move. They're seeing my Adam's apple move. That's all they think about. And of course, they have to do something about it because it's affecting their quality of life.
Sure. Yeah. If you're hyper obsessed over it, even if it doesn't matter or no one else sees it, you feel. It's like putting on pretty nice clothes or nice fitting clothes, right? You feel better. You feel attractive. And interestingly, as a result, people perceive you also as more attractive when you feel comfortable in your clothes and your skin. So I get that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I've learned faux pas. Do not ask. Got it. Thank you.
Uh, uh, if you ask, it should be a really close friend.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, you basically do you do not question people about, oh, did you have surgery about that? Did you have surgery about that? Oh, you're not wearing glasses today. Did you have surgery? Like you don't do that just
Yeah.
because someone changes their how they look. You don't start questioning if they had surgery.
Yeah.
And it's the same with trans people. We I mean, we change how we look, but you don't go around asking like, "Oh, did you snip it?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's horrible.
yes, it is.
And I imagine that. I mean, yeah, it's out of all. Yeah, jeez. I mean, yeah, what an undertaking. And I get that it's sensitive too in some ways. Not now that you're kind of bringing it to my attention as well, because yeah, like I couldn't imagine having something like that as a decision in front of me. I'm lucky. I never had to think about that as an issue in the first place. So I couldn't imagine then if that is, maybe like in your case, your nose, for example, like maybe that's because right, it's the definition between male and female, right? It's the one thing that is going to be like probably very sensitive to a lot of people. They're going to have a lot in their head, I'm assuming, regarding, you know, and then right. Then you get into the whole complicated mess, and we don't have to get into this, but the whole social contract, the
Yeah,
construct versus, we get into all that too. Like, what does it mean? Can you be with, not surgically altered, for example, or can you not, and whatever. And yeah, that's
I've
okay.
I've got I've got the question a lot,
Mm.
and people who doesn't even know my name come up, and like that's the first thing they ask me almost.
Wow.
And it's so weird, and they don't do it out of malice,
Of course.
but
Curiosity, but it's
yeah,
not thought through.
yeah, it's
Uh huh.
it's because it's something they don't understand,
Yeah.
and sometimes uh, it's hard to not get angry because it's so personal. Uh, I think I managed to not get angry because I honest believe that if I get if I get angry, if I get upset, instead of telling them that, oh, I think that's too personal, all I do is alienate them from us,
Yeah.
making it harder for them to understand. And they
You create.
thought, yeah,
Sorry, continue,
they
please.
thought that they were just asking a normal question. It's not a normal question, but in their mind, they're asking a question about something they don't understand, and they do not. Some people do not know how other people react. They just don't, and they blurt out the question because they want to have answers, and they don't think about where they are, how the environment is. They take none of that in account and just ask the question on the biggest square in the city. Like, okay, you don't know me. Why are you asking me this? All because they heard me speak with a friend.
Yeah. It's Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it makes sense. It's like this. Yeah, because asking like that without thinking it through, it's a knee jerk reaction, and then
Mm.
you have to be the adult in this conversation and not have that knee jerk reaction back, which is anger.
Yes,
Like you didn't
yes.
think this through.
I,
What are you
mm,
thinking?
mm,
Why are you asking this? Can I ask you also the
yeah.
most personal shit about you, random
Yeah.
stranger who just walked up to me?
Yeah.
Okay, you're
Mm.
making a lot
Do
of
you?
sense. I'm glad I asked you because then people who are watching this interview will then know. And it's why I was told you also I'm scared because I knew I was going to step on some of these minefields. And it's also why it's so important to have this conversation that you and I are having. Because what happens is, like you said there, imagine if you have an angry reaction towards them and they don't know your name, so they don't know who you are, right? Which means who do they see? They see a trans person and they're unapproachable. They're angry, like, oh, she
Mm.
exploded. I just asked a question, and and then that'll color not only conversations with their friends, which will not give your community any good, good reputation, and
Yeah.
furthermore, he's never gonna meet or have a good opinion of other trans people, even though you are not a representative of all trans. You are just Kajsa walking in the street that you're not selling a lecture. You're not on a podium saying, "Hey, come to my show. Pay some money, and we're gonna talk about what being trans is in this day and era." You're a person who's trying to be private, and you just happen to be in the city that that you're of course allowed to be. You're allowed to dress and do however you want, but people invite themselves to a conversation. I get how that's got to be ruthless. That made
Yeah.
me angry now.
Yeah.
I completely felt.
Yeah. It's actually it's so horrible. That like, I mean that quote, like, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's I get that people, we are fed up with it. So, but when it's someone that doesn't know me, as you said, I'm not representing myself when I'm not known by the other person. And I mean, in the best of the worlds, I wouldn't have to think about it because people wouldn't be that personal publicly. But at the same time, people are.
That's a
They're
little bit
everywhere.
why I asked you also if you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert. Is because I imagine just by the nature of how you look and how you present yourself, there is going to be a lot of social interaction coming your way, whether you want it or not, right?
Yeah.
Like I blend in. I walk around in the streets out here. No one takes two looks at me. I look the way I look anyway, so why would they? But jokes aside, but you, yeah, you are. I wonder. This is my not a question for you because there's no way you could answer it. But this is my question for the world. Really, would be how many people when they first look at you, like you said, you blend in really well, and if unless you open your mouth, you said a lot of people don't even like really notice, and that gives me some part of the question. But I wonder how many people look at you and they see a transvestite first. They don't see an individual, and they definitely don't see Kajsa because they don't know your name, they don't know who you are as a person. And then the secondary question to this, the follow up would be, how long does it take for most people talking to you before they lose the hyperfixation with, oh, this is weird, or this is odd, or this is extraordinary, or this is not common, whatever you want to put, whatever label that's for that individual. And I'm sure people will fall in all of the spectrum, right? Some people will find it weird, some people will not find it weird. They'll just go, oh, but I don't know any trans people. I'm curious, The people is going to fall everywhere on the spectrum. How long does it take into knowing you before that becomes just like, oh, it's Kajsa. I like Kajsa. I know her, That would be interesting to know, wouldn't it?
It would help
Someone
a
should
lot
do.
sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right.
Yeah.
They would help you a lot too, I imagine, because if you knew that on a statistical average, someone did all the data on this, and it takes an average of, I don't know, say 5 meetings and 20 minutes each meeting before they get over that fact. Like, this is my friend Kajsa. I go and eat with her. I have fika with her, which is coffee for
good.
all your English speakers. I like her. I know personal things about her as an individual. How long does that take, and how many meetings does it take? And then just so you could know the bell curve, right? That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it?
I've been experienced some of it. And it's different for everyone.
Of course.
And a lot of people. I mean, I have some friends that I almost only speak online with. That's because we live in different cities and we usually hang out with, online with a game or something. So we don't see each other as we do now. So they have hardly seen me since I came out. And for some of them, when we actually met up, because I mean, I started my transition the later part of the pandemic. We were still indoors a lot, and so when we first met each other, it became so much easier for them because they saw how I looked. And before we go any further, I will go back a little bit because you actually used a word in the wrong way.
Oh no! Okay.
Yeah.
Correct me. I'm all here for it. Let me hear it.
And it's a small one, but transvestite
Uh-huh.
is someone who identify as the, the the sex they were born with, but dresses occasionally on the way.
Okay.
And as a trans person is someone
Okay.
who doesn't. Yeah. So transvestite is only looks. It's
Okay.
not. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah. So
But it.
vests means as the clothing vest that you transvest you dress.
Oh. Okay.
Uh,
Oh, that makes
mm,
sense.
yeah.
And really? Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, because anyone who is not knowing this would assume,
Yeah.
and my assumption, and you know what I'm about to say, is that trans person is just short for transvestite, but it is not the case.
No.
So
No.
okay, so let's delve into this word a little bit. Perfect. Thank you. I'm
Yes.
happy we're talking about this. So a trans person is a person who, would you say, kind of like, excuse if this is offensive, but is it a person who believes they were born in the wrong body? Is that
Us
closer?
kind of.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to explain it.
Sure.
It's not true in all senses
Okay.
because a lot of people can think that they are born in the right body but with the wrong add-ons, wrong
Yeah.
side quests.
Yeah.
uh, which means that they're still themselves, they're still their own body. I mean, my body have started to change quite a bit, and I thought that I was in the wrong body, but I started to believe that I am in the right body now that I have downloaded the right DLC.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. You
yeah,
have the correct mods on.
yeah, and that's so. When you are a trans person,
Mhm.
literally means the other side.
Yep.
That's why it's called
Yeah.
transportation, because
Yeah.
you take you to
Transverse.
the
Yep.
you take it to the other port.
Yep.
And so if you're a trans person, you're not yeah. A lot of we use something that's called as assigned female at birth,
Right.
assigned male at birth, AMAB, AFAB. Uh, that's not the same abbreviation as ACAB, which is not the
No,
same.
no, it is not.
You should probably bleep that out. People will
Yeah.
know what I said.
Trans woman says.
Yeah, that's not.
You'll be in the news by this
That's
evening.
Yeah, that's a different political, and we can talk about that another time. Yeah, but when we refer to that, it's mostly because we actually do it in our own community. Like, I am this. I was assigned this. This is not who I am, but I was assigned this. How? Which of you have experienced the same thing?
Mm.
So, if I use AMAB, I use it as um, I was assigned this. I have this problem. Is there someone else in my situation who have fixed this problem? Can you help me?
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, just light bulb moment just now. Just you
yeah,
saying that, because to me, who's not in this topic, it's you know ignorantly, I'm realizing now that I would think, oh, this fits. This is what it is. But of course, it's not. You need more
yeah,
specific language so that you can identify, look, I am not right, because of course it's a spectrum. It makes sense if a person thinks, okay, I was born in the wrong body, but then that might be a person that is dealing with the same things. That is a person who's like, I was assigned this, but I'm dealing with it, and trying to get to this perhaps or whatever. And so you need a more specific language. That makes so much sense, because because one question I've had is, how come we keep adding letters to the
yes, yes.
we keep,
And
because of course because there's a community that belongs or feels like they are not included, or their labeling doesn't fit them. So I understand it on a light surface level, but um
and
but
that's
that
why
makes
I brought
sense.
those words up, because
Yeah.
they are easy to understand. So if you have a person that is like me, I sign AMAB, I sign
Mm.
male at birth, and you do not identify uh, under that spectrum.
Mm.
You are trans, and you're a trans person. Uh, we used to use transsexual, uh,
Yeah.
but that applies sexual,
Right.
which could be somewhat confusing, and people still use it, but a lot of people have stopped using it and says trans person.
Yeah.
However, the word you used, which is transvestite, doesn't imply anything at all about your identity.
Right.
It's just, let's say that, I mean, if you go up on a stage borrowing my dress, you still identify as you,
Mm-hmm.
even though you have my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
That would make you, in that instance, transvestite.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So,
Is that synonymous with cross-dresser, or am I entering a whole new word yet again now?
uh, crossdresser is a little bit more confusing,
Okay.
because it's very very close to transvestite, but have some other, depending on where and which forum you're talking in. It could come with sexual attachments. It could come with non-sexual attachment. It could be um, slur for trans person. It could be just someone experimenting and just found that word, using it, not knowing anything. Um, so it's a little bit confusing because it's used interchangeably for in different areas in different ways. Uh,
That is so confusing. There's so many
yeah,
terms. It's one of the big ones when I was really nervous at the beginning of having this conversation with you is because
mm,
I think a lot of people who are clicking on this link who's going to watch this video are going to come at it from the viewpoint that I am, which is how
mm,
do you even approach without offending the shit out of people? Like you were saying, don't come up and ask the one bad question, don't
yeah,
do that. But then it goes, and that is easy to understand, particularly now that you've explained it. But we're still so many minefields with what we read in the media, and then
yeah,
the term changes, and then there's
yes,
new additions to the term or
mm,
new words altogether, and
yeah,
it's so we're not in the community, so we're not. I don't know all the words. Like you studied engineering, I don't know a lot of engineering terms either. So if you're not exposed to this, and uh, and then it becomes we all. I think a lot of people are just gonna, and the older we are, we're just gonna go. It's easier to just not talk to her or him, because it's too. I don't want to offend, or I don't. But then that it's why you're here, as you said. Uh, that doesn't help anybody because having conversations with people is the only way we move these conversations and understanding forward. And if
yes,
we shadow ban or shadow ban even IRL, right? Where I might see you and go, I'm really curious about you, Kajsa, and then I see you down in Straw City, and but then I'm so
stuck.
scared, right? Because
Mm.
I have read so many things, and I've seen horrible fights, I've seen so many bar fights and things like that, online, right? And
I've seen them being real.
oh yeah, I'm sure you have, right? So that gets to normal people who mean no ill will might just go, it's easier. I'm just not going. Like,
Yeah,
why bring that potential pain? I say because we don't know, but it's easier to just steer clear. Fuck it.
yeah,
Don't want to be near this. Too many terms. I'm gonna offend, and then we're gonna have some
mm,
kind of discussion, and I don't want to have these discussions. It's not my home playing field. Meaning, I don't know the terms. I don't know, all the things that go into this very nuanced and complex topic that is constantly adding letters. From us from the outside is that's all we know is okay. Well, we know I is and then A we're adding and the plus and
yeah,
and I don't know what plus means. I assume it means just and all others, but I'm sure it means something else. I have no
yes.
freaking clue. And you see, and but that's the
Nah,
thing
no,
is,
yeah, but at the same time, that is a challenge for our communities,
mm,
uh, because what we try to do, uh, as a, when we create labels, we create more opportunities for people to try and find themselves. So in such a way, adding more labels let us explore and identify with ourselves easier. And in that sense, it's not for the people. It's their labels are not for the people who are not under that term themselves. But it comes up in media and in some way scaremongering in the wrong way. And I get it. I mean, there is a lot of words that I think I know that might not be appropriate in a few years because people use them in the wrong way. Uh, um, and that's and sometimes we had the old a chocolate ball.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, we
you
did.
know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for English speaker, they had we had a really old word for for a chocolate ball that wasn't appropriate, and
No,
it
it
was
was
a
not.
shitstorm. It was a shitstorm in Sweden
Yeah.
because people didn't want to change how they spell. Yeah, all the. Uh, but what happened after a while was that people just got used to it. So the reason that it's so confusing now is because none of these words were used as much before. So when they come up in media, I mean, we are supposed to learn new words every day to keep our brain evolving, to
Mhm.
keep it in place. And you're supposed to learn about 10 words. Not that I do, but that's a good thing to keep your brain active. Learning
Yeah.
10 new your words every day,
Staves
and
off Alzheimer's, dementia, all kinds of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
and that means that you could work through uh, our community's words within a week and learn them if you want to, if you could teach yourself. But I get that if you have none, or rather you believe that you don't have any uh, in your family, your closeness, why would you use your brain activity for that when you can go and watch a game, you can go and eat popcorn? No, but just do something that you know you like. Uh, but I think that the more they are used in the correct way, the more they're just another word. And and if you're not interested, you can go back to ignoring them. As as long as you're not disrespectful, it doesn't matter if you don't know all the words. I mean, the big word. No, sorry. uh, uh, if you don't, if you go and watch a game and you don't know all the players, well, no one is gonna hate you for that. If you go to a Pride festival and you don't know all the words, who cares? When you go to a soccer game, a football game, you you tend to learn some of the players. When you go to a Pride festival, you tend to learn some of the words.
Mm.
Just just don't hate,
Yeah.
and let it sink in slowly. Uh, they've a lot of the young people that are learning the new words now have so
Yeah.
much easier because
Yes.
they do it. But if you're older and have problem with learning these words, just take
Mm.
it slow. You don't have to learn them. You can just learn one each year. It's
And
plenty of time.
it's about respect a bit, yeah, because you're
Yeah.
in our communities, and you should do the
Mm.
due diligence. You're right. You're right. That makes sense. So if I'm learning one thing, Kajsa, here is uh the us. My God, I'm gonna step on a minefield. Here we go. Heteronormative. I don't know what to call. What do I
Yeah.
call? What am I? What am I to your community?
I could use that word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for us
Mm.
heteronormative people, we need to take on our shoulders and responsibility that bare minimum respect should be done ideally. Learn these not that complicated words. Try to stay up with it and do the favor to your community. And and for you is realizing, which you have, and of course you've talked about it many times now in this interview, that we are just curious. We mean no ill will in general. Some people do, no doubt about it. I've seen it. I've seen people who are transphobic and etc. And those exist, but it's not it's far from everybody. Most people want everybody to agree and get along. But we will transgress on some of these words. We will transgress on some of these stupidity and some of these questions. And so having that patience and educating rather than getting angry will be the struggle then, but required to continue fostering.
From both sides.
From exact. Couldn't have said it better, right? So yeah, that makes sense. Our interview is about to come to a perfect 2-hour close here. I had 2 questions, but okay, just super quick. The word TRANNY, I don't even want to say it in case it's bad. Is that a bad word? Is that a word I need to move away from? Okay. Yeah. So, okay, great. So then let's not even go further. Don't use that word. Okay. Because that's the other thing too, is that in martial arts, they always say that if you are a new student of boxing or, sorry, I use mixed martial arts, so let me just use mixed martial arts. So let's say you start jiu-jitsu, for example. It is easier to train a person, Gen Z, for example, that have never used the wrong language for many years, right? It's the same thing in mixed martial arts or anything like that. If you have a bad, you tend to lower your left jab or whatever, and you have trained that into, so your reaction is to drop your hand, for example, that is much harder and longer passage to train that out of you than it is if someone gets the good fundamentals from the beginning, right? And I feel like this is a little bit about this conversation we're having here, that I have heard a lot of these words and then use them, and then one day people get mad at you and you go, oh crap, I didn't realize the literature had changed, right? I'm not in that sphere. I didn't realize that I'm not allowed to say that. So I will make my personal promise that absolutely, I will study up more about this, and I will make sure that I update and don't use the offensive words, because that's not what I want to do. Not my fault. It's not my term. I was taught this and people used to say it a lot, but didn't realize that it's offensive. So I will make sure that I do better on that part. The least I can.
Yeah. Do not confuse lack of knowledge for stupidity. If you lack knowledge, you lack knowledge. It does not say anything about your brain activities. And own that as you have done now. Ask, oh, I'm sorry, did I use that wrong? And respect the answer. And you've come a long way, because we have to de-escalate the situations when they arise. You are never stupid for not knowing something that you have never been taught.
Or taught the wrong thing. That's horrible. Yeah. No, thank you. And don't listen so much to media. Talk to the people in your community. Yeah. Have these conversations, right? I learned more in this 2-hour interview than I could have learned 10 hours on the media, right? It's not, reality is not what's on, what I call legacy media now, right? Our path forward will be podcasting and conversing.
And then your next interview, someone says something completely opposite of what I said.
Oh, yeah, as is the case, right? But it's remember, it's an iterative process. So we grab a little bit from everybody and we try to do better, try to find the answers as we go. Is there anything else you would like to leave us with, Kajsa, before we go?
Don't be stupid.
I agree with that. Don't be stupid. But if you listen to this podcast, you're probably not one of those people, because mine is always about educational. It always comes with a lot of questions, and I have a lot of varied topics, and we'll continue that path. So I think the people who are listening to this, you're already on the right path. It's good. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Kajsa, for your great and gracious interview. You've been great. I really hope that everybody got something out of it. I know I did. So open invitation. If you want to come back, or you have new things to talk about, or when you release your game that you were talking about,
Yes.
you're more than welcome to come and talk about it. We don't have to make this about this topic. There's so many more things that I would love to talk to you about. So I could have gone another hour if it was up to me. So this
my
is
God.
great.
2 hours.
I just love it. So yeah, thank you so much, and see you on the next one. Bye.